Welcome, everyone. I know there's a few folks that are maybe still going to be popping in and out, but I think we're just being mindful of time and know that it's your lunchtime for many of you. We're going to go ahead and get started today. So hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. Can you still see? Maybe just give me a thumbs up in the chat, or that you can see my screen. All right, I just want to make sure I'm, oh, perfect. Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate that. And thanks, Katie. It's always good to see thumbs up. I think all of us in the day of Zoom appreciate just getting some reassurance that technology is working. But again, welcome. I'm happy you're here with us today to talk about recruitment. To level set with a couple of things, I wanted you to just consider that the majority of mentors working with youth are volunteers who were directly recruited by mentoring programs. And while there's not a ton of empirical research to guide mentor recruitment specifically, there is a lot of research on volunteerism and nonprofit organizations that they do provide significant contributions to recruiting and retaining volunteers, which is why we're super excited to be joined today by Joy Altmann from HandsOn Twin Cities. HandsOn is really leading the way in volunteerism and in both recruiting and retaining those volunteers. And I'm going to kind of kick us off a little bit and then formally introduce Joy here in a minute. But again, we're just really excited that Joy could be with us today. And just a bit about HandsOn Twin Cities too, that they are located here in the Twin Cities, and they're a nonprofit that provides high impact when it comes to volunteer recruitment in community. And like any journey that we're on today at this Lunch and Learn, I can't promise that there won't be a couple bumps in the road, but bear with me. I really hope that that those bumps in the road can be minimal, and that the journey will provide some great resources and a place to connect and really build community here. So with that, here's our roadmap for our journey. I think it's always good to start from a good place, and that's getting to know all of you. For those that are maybe new to Mentor Minnesota, I want to make sure that I introduce who Mentor Minnesota really is, and then provide some foundational knowledge around the element of recruitment, and even a couple of helpful ways to spice up your elevator pitch. Then we're going to be hearing from our special guest, Joy Altmann. And at the end, we're going to provide a space for questions and answers and share some additional resources provided by both Mentor and the National Mentoring Resource Center. And to just streamline the chat a bit, I'm going to share a doc in the chat that includes resources that I'll be covering today at a high level. So again, even though it's a journey, it might be a quick journey, but feel free to explore the resources, after you leave us today and you want to maybe learn a little bit more. I try to put it all in there for you so that you can have it right at your disposal. So we feel it's important to really start from a good place, and that's getting to know you. So if you would be so kind to share in the chat your name and pronouns, your organization, agency, or program, and then who was the last person that you felt inspired by? And then as we discuss recruitment today and building connections, I invite you to really stay mindful of those that you feel inspired by, energized by, and then keep those people in mind as you think about what recruitment looks like within your own network. And then while we learn a little bit more about each other in the chat, I'll go ahead and share a little bit more about Mentor Minnesota and myself. And so I'll bounce the slides around a bit, but I did go ahead and share this in the chat so that you know what I encourage you to share right there. And I do see I wanted to grasp a little bit of spring with the pictures, but still the remnants of some snow. I'm really hopeful that today's weather isn't going to bring us a ton of snow and more rain perhaps, but we're going to, try to stay hopeful in that. So my teammates, Sarah and Allie, could not be with us today as they're at a training event, but I'm Emily Geray, she, her, program director here at Mentor Minnesota. Advocating for young people is something that I've been passionate about and really excited to continue this work within this role at Mentor. And though I currently live outside the Twin Cities, I'm from a really small town in Northwest Minnesota. It's Mahnomen. So I don't know if any folks are familiar with that, but it's about 35 miles northwest of Detroit Lakes. So advocating for young people to have supportive relationships provided by mentorship opportunities in both rural areas and urban centers is equally important to me. And just a couple of housekeeping items. So as we move along today, feel free to ask questions and continue to share in the chat. Again, it's always great to see who's here on the call with us. And the only housekeeping items that I really have are just to ensure that your mic is off so we avoid getting any of that echo or feedback, and that we're respectful of one another in this space. And full disclosure, multitasking in a Zoom is not my best skill set, but I'm going to do my best, and I promise to give 110% in that regard. But go ahead and continue to share in the chat, and at the end, we'll make sure that we wrap around any questions that maybe I've missed, or if you have additional questions for Joy too, that we'll go ahead and try to address those as best we can at the end. So our pillars of what really grounds us in this work at Mentor Minnesota, our vision, it's really our dream. And our dream as an organization is that all youth have agency and power at home, at school, in their community, and in the workplace. So really that means that we want to be here to support you, the adults, and that we believe in holistic youth development. And with that holistic youth development, we elevate quality, connect people to each other like we're doing here today, and building connection and community. We really strive to expand the mentoring movement and influence systems in the power that positive relationships through mentorship can really have, and what a game changer that can be within those different initiatives and buckets of work. So with that, we're working hard to do this by, as I mentioned, those different kind of buckets of work. We provide quality training opportunities, and that helps us leverage evidence-based research to promote best practices in mentoring, sharing resources and tools like I'll do again here today. And a big part of a foundational piece that you'll notice here is the elements of effective practice for mentoring. And I'll be highlighting some of those best practices when it comes to recruitment. We also, excuse me, we also provide workshops and cohort learning, and really seeing cohort opportunities as an opportunity to learn and lead together. And we're also technical assistance providers through the National Mentoring Resources. So if you're ever interested in receiving some of that one-to-one coaching and you want to apply for technical assistance at no cost to your program, be sure to reach out to myself, Sarah, or Allie, anyone really on our team, and we'd be happy to walk you through that process. So on our journey today, I want to encourage you to really lean into thinking about your own recruitment practices. And maybe this is something that you're ready to innovate and tweak a bit. Maybe this is something you're just getting started within your organization, and that's okay. I just encourage you to kind of lean into this process and maybe jot down some thoughts or ideas. As there are unique programs, there are also unique ways to innovate and really enhance your recruitment plan along the way. So our first step on this journey, some foundational knowledge. So as I mentioned earlier, Mentor's resources are really grounded in best practices supported by research and data. And one of our biggest resources is the elements of effective practice for mentoring. And I'll refer to that, and we often call it just the EEP, our EEP training or EEP resource. You'll hear us say that a lot. But the EEP offers guidance for programs through benchmarks and enhancement practices. And one of the most important takeaways from guidance regarding recruitment specifically is that when recruiting potential mentors, it's important that mentoring programs set a realistic expectation and set those out regarding what mentoring relationship is and what it can achieve. So being upfront and realistic in recruitment initiatives sets volunteers up for success through a clear understanding, and that's super important. So how can you do this within your own organization? One way is for programs to have a written recruitment plan that includes all of the policies and procedures used to implement benchmark practices. So that's really those policies of how your organization, how your program is running. And then you can also include any other relevant enhancements or anything, other pieces of important information within that. Another way to provide realistic expectations is to have clear messaging that's incorporated in all recruitment materials. So this can have a direct effect really on the success of your marketing campaign. So I think, again, the bottom line is really that being clear from the jump is vital to success. And that way, both on the programming side of things and on the volunteer side of things, there's just a really clear understanding. So that's really, if you get nothing else from today, I really hope that, but that, that's something that we can ground in. And another way to be clear in setting realistic expectations for a prospective mentor is to provide them with that written eligibility requirement. And so folks might be saying, well, won't that deter other folks from, maybe being interested or thinking about, volunteering? But again, I think it's really important to be clear and really know what the expectations are. So program recruitment mentors whose skills, and thinking about this, within your program, recruiting mentors whose skills, motivations, and backgrounds best match the goals and structure of the program, right, of your organization. And so you really want to think about recruitment strategy in such a way that builds positive attitudes and emotions about mentoring. Be clear, be realistic, but it's also a way that advocates, for the building of positive relationships to support young people. So we don't want to be pessimistic, we want to be realistic. So I think, again, that's where innovation comes and how you can be transparent and upfront with potential volunteers, but again, really providing them with some grounding foundational knowledge that's going to help them understand what your organization, what your program is about, and the values that it upholds, so that, again, you're recruiting those folks that really align within that. And that will, again, set you up for success and set the volunteer up for success, and setting up that mentee for a successful match with their relationship. So some recruitment tips from pros. Again, I'll be sharing now. Don't worry about having to write all of this down, but these are just some, really great ways that pooled information came in on how to uplift and support recruitment. And again, defining who will be a best fit for your program, and then focus your recruitment efforts on finding those mentors who match those goals. Again, really aligning in value. Ensure your recruitment strategy is accurate and portrays the benefits and also the challenges that can be associated with mentoring programs. I know right now, for an example of maybe a challenge would be technology. As we're coming out of these past 2 years, hopefully, we're done and out of the pandemic, but technology rose to be a bit of a challenge for a lot of programs. So again, kind of being upfront with that, and then even addressing how is your programming supporting some of those, and meeting and providing resources and support to overcome and get around some of those challenges. It's also important to be thinking about recruitment takes time and intention, right? So you might be planting some of these seeds of thought and maybe just kind of casting a wider net for folks within a pool. And it might just take some time for those folks to maybe think about becoming or volunteering and becoming a mentor. And so maybe they'll reach out right away, but again, be prepared that it might take some time. It's important to also document and track which strategies attract the most viable leads. So you never know which pebble is going to leave the biggest ripple, right? And so keeping track of that data is really important and can really save you some time and resources when it comes to this. And this can also be where innovation comes in. So perhaps you try something new and it's a huge success, or maybe it's an epic fail. I encourage you to not get stuck in the failure, rather view it as a detour and then go a different direction. And lastly, another tip is to update and ensure that your elevator pitch and recruitment materials are clear, concise, and speak to those that might be a good fit. And speaking of ensuring your elevator pitch is maybe updated and clear and informative, we're going to talk a little bit about this. So I'm just going to be real for a second. I know not everybody has their cameras on. Often folks are busy eating lunch, and so that's totally okay. But perhaps I maybe already lost a few of you on this call, and that only means that we're human. We have super short attention spans. Before joining Mentor Minnesota, I worked with middle school students. So I really fully understand that attention spans can vary and they're short. So again, when thinking about an elevator pitch, think super short, 30 seconds or less. Again, just understanding that people's attention spans are not very long at all, no matter if you're a young person or an adult. So as someone that's not an expert in creating elevator pitches, I did research and learned a lot along the way and really wanted to share out some of the things and the current tips from the pros that I learned. So the first, when you're thinking about your elevator pitch, and again, the name came from if you're maybe you're jumping on an airplane and you only have a few seconds with somebody at the airport, or you're going into a meeting and you bump into somebody that you want to connect with. Those are those moments that you want to have this pitch or, just this moment to take advantage of connecting with another person. So the first thing to creating an updated elevator pitch is open your pitch with something interesting and unexpected. So knowing there's great diversity in mentoring programs and organizations and folks on this call here today, I'll use Mentor Minnesota as an example. So for us, perhaps it's something like potential is equally distributed. Opportunity is not. Again, this is short and sweet, but something interesting and might pique the interest of someone. So again, think of your own program, your own organization. And then start by thinking about what your ideal mentor might want to do differently that mentorship can actually provide them. So in the chat, I'd love for all of you on the call, if you would share some ideas on what mentorship or even what are some benefits into building positive relationships within your own organizations. What could that mentorship provide a volunteer? So for example, provide opportunity for a volunteer. Another example, excuse me, just got a couple of people that are going to be popping in. Another example might be a unique experience. Perhaps your organization provides something that's unlike a lot of other programs around the Twin Cities. But I'd love to hear from all of you. So again, there's no right or wrong answer here. I'm just curious to have you think about, again, what are some ideas on what mentorship could provide a volunteer? And go ahead and just keep sharing them in the chat. Another one I thought of is positive connection, right? I think in a time where we've all been perhaps struggling to build back some connection that was lost, mentorship can provide that for volunteers. I love that, Brianna. Support system, networking, community. Perhaps a sense of joy as a mentee or mentor, providing a space of fun. I think we're all looking for joy and for fun. Relationship building, excellent. A new friend, new perspective, new experiences. Excellent, thanks, Katie. Another big one, I think, for organizations too, or community members, is an opportunity for volunteers as a driver for equity initiatives. Again, as I kind of mentioned in my own thinking as a Mentor Minnesota elevator pitch, is that we know that potential is equally distributed, but those opportunities are not. So this might, volunteering can actually help drive equity initiatives. And if you think of other ones, go ahead and keep sharing them. I think it's always good to bounce ideas off each other and to view things through a different lens sometimes. So this is viewing and reflect on how a volunteer might feel if they could be a mentor in your organization or in your program. So as a mentor, you allow for space for the next generation to thrive, right? You allow for a feeling of connectedness through sharing of stories and experiences. You also bridge understanding and allow for professional and personal growth, right? So with all these considerations, the bottom line is to create your elevator pitch from a listener's perspective. So again, using myself as an example, again, I'm still learning with all of you, but it might be something like starting with potential is equally distributed, opportunity is not. So people come to us when they want to connect and amplify opportunities for young people everywhere. So whether that's in the workplace, school, or in community and beyond. So I'm Emily Geray. I'm the program director at Mentor Minnesota. I'd love to connect and tell you more. Something like that. Again, you're just trying to open with something interesting and unexpected, maybe. Volunteer, thinking of how the volunteer might want to do something different. And then how might that volunteer feel if they could connect and be a mentor within your organization? Then put it all together and create an elevator pitch from that listener or that potential volunteer's perspective. And to go along with an elevator pitch, recruitment materials are really important too. And so, such as flyers, videos, events. So I'm just gonna allow myself to get a quick drink of water and gonna just play some recruitment material. Really, it's a video. It's part of marketing for Mentor on how we can really build out the mentoring movement. So again, pairing something as small as one person within your network's elevator pitch to maybe a larger marketing campaign when it comes to recruitment strategies. So I'm going to go ahead and play this and get a drink of water.
Smiles should be contagious. Experiences shared. Connections meaningful. This is how progress starts. We all need doors opened, shoulders to stand on, and high fives along the way. It's not just what you know, it's who you know, who stood by you, and who will you stand by. Mentoring amplifies.
So again, short and sweet, but again, leaving kind of this lasting connection between how a volunteer might benefit, how they might feel, and putting it together with how to connect. And I think it's just important to kind of be thinking about that as we go, that it all really comes together. So recruitment is about kind of looking at the big picture of an organization and how can we pull it all together. I only have a couple more things to share, and I'm going to hand it over to our lovely guest, Joy. But I did want to show a couple of examples of how you might begin this process within your own organization. And again, they're going to be shared in that resource doc that I shared earlier, and I'll share it again. But I wanted to give a couple different examples of how this might look. So this is an example from our affiliate partners in Independence region. And so again, I'll share it with all of you, so you don't have to worry about copying it all down or anything like that. But if you'll notice, there's 4 prompts at the top. And those 4 prompts are really intended for sharing and ideating with your own team and recruitment potential volunteers that might be part of that network. And, you know, really thinking about this work is listing out the qualities and life experiences that you think will make a good mentor. So for example, perhaps it's international experience or a particular workforce skill that you're looking for within your volunteer recruitment. The next one is list an activity or an affiliation where you might find people with that quality. So for example, such as the Peace Corps of Volunteers or AmeriCorps, and reaching out to those folks and how you can connect and partner with them. Another one is list suggested places, so actual locations or spaces where you should be recruiting mentors. So this might be places within your community that the program is located, or other institutions that might be a great place to uplift mentoring. And lastly, ideas that are tailored strategies for reaching this group. So perhaps there's a big community event that draws folks that you want to recruit, and you want to see if there's a way to partner with them at that event. So again, this work plan is just a nice example to as a way of thinking about coming together as a team, narrowing down your initiatives, and then activate that plan. Sometimes it's good to just to see what some other programs are doing and how they're doing it when it comes to recruitment. And the last one I'll share is this template. If you just notice the strategy or the highlighted part there in yellow, and that's the recruitment strategy. So as I noted back in with the EEP, it's recommended that programs encourage current mentors to also assist with recruitment efforts by providing them with resources to ask individuals they know who meet the eligibility criteria to be a mentor. So again, that yellow highlighted shows that the most effective recruitment is personal outreach and to family and friends. So again, crafting even your elevator pitch and maybe personalizing it for when you do talk to your friends and family, as that is truly the most effective way to recruit mentors. And then if you go down, you know, contacting volunteers through community-wide media or big outreach events is maybe less effective, but it's also really important because again, you're getting awareness. Hopefully, even if folks aren't gonna maybe necessarily mentor or volunteer with your program, they might provide other ways to advocate and partner. So again, thinking about strategy is knowing that the most effective is personal outreach and having that, that connection with folks and that personal ask. But then also there are other benefits that come with other outreach when it comes to recruitment. And I know Joy is going to be talking a little bit about some other events that they have going on. One last resource too, there's a new resource that Mentor recently put out, and it's called Becoming a Better Mentor. Within that, there's other recruitment tools, but I want to point out that as we're thinking about this work, we really believe in the importance of approaching recruitment with youth voice. And so I really wanted to reiterate that. But there's some really great resources within Becoming a Better Mentor to talk about that youth voice specifically and how you can incorporate that within your recruitment strategies within your programs. So I don't know about you, but I appreciate a good checklist, mainly so I don't forget something. The older I get, the harder it's to remember everything, but it's also a good way to stay organized, as I showed those other couple examples of a work plan. Checklists can also act as a great facilitator to create conversation within your own networks. So that might be with your stakeholders, with your teams, your committees that might be helping with recruitment. So I'm not going to list out all of these. Again, I'll share this resource, but a couple of things to just point out is that the importance of writing a mentor job description being really, really clear and making sure that you're being realistic with that, but also it's important to write it out. Another thing to point out is the importance of community, incorporating youth voice, and lastly, identify and approach organizations and businesses that can connect you to potential mentors and volunteers. Bringing us to our special guest today, Joy. I'm so excited that Joy's here and really sharing some game-changing work that HandsOn Twin Cities is working hard at doing to uplift nonprofits. A lot of this work is, and that Joy is the managing director over, is their Pro Bono advisory program, which I'm really excited for Joy to share out with all of you and to talk about that. But Joy's also going to be sharing how all of those of us on the call today can really, different ways that we can get connected to the ecosystem that surrounds HandsOn and their work. A little bit more about Joy. Joy brings more than 25 years of experience to HandsOn Twin Cities, spanning multiple sectors from global retail corporations to scaling small businesses nationwide to supporting multiple stakeholders within the nonprofit sector. Prior to HandsOn, Joy was the projects and events director at Matter, in which she led all fundraising events. Just kind of process that for a second, folks. She led all fundraising events. That's just, I really wanted to shout that out because I'm just honored and humbled by your ability to do that. And before bringing her leadership to nonprofit sector, Joy spent over a decade owning the implementation and supporting operational success at Ever Eve, in which she led the opening of new store locations across the country. So needless to say, though Joy is super humble, she is a powerhouse. So I'll hand it over to you, Joy.
Thank you, Emily. I need you to accompany me to everything to be my hype woman. So always fun to kind of hear your own bio read back to you. I think it's a reminder of, what you do on an everyday basis. So thanks again for having me today. And what I love about this is that this was a true lunch and learn for me. Mentorship is a new kind of area for me in this space. So I learned a lot that I did not know previously. So excellent presentation, especially from somebody on the outside looking in and being able to see that. So I'm sharing my screen today. Emily, you want to give me a thumbs up? I can see you to see if you can see my presentation. So I've got, the dual screen happening now that everybody does too. So just getting my wits about myself. So today, I know recruitment is on everyone's mind. I work for a nonprofit. We talk about recruitment of volunteers as well. So I'm just going to share a little bit today about what HandsOn Twin Cities does, who we are, and then our kind of strategies around volunteerism, but also opportunities for you all to participate in to build capacity and possibly open up some pools of new volunteers as well. So again, just like Emily had, here is our agenda, our roadmap, talking about who we are, who I am, kind of giving a 101 on Pro Bono. It is, I would say, a newer discipline that is being seen across, the sector and nonprofits and actually BIPOC-owned small businesses. So just kind of level setting there. I'm going to talk about our program, who we partner with, and then opportunities, and give hopefully chance for all of you to ask questions if you have more curiosities about today's presentation. So for me, my introduction can be very short because Emily did such an excellent job. I've been at HandsOn now for a year, just had my anniversary, and managing a team that manages also projects, all of our pro bono projects that we currently have going on. HandsOn Twin Cities. So some of you may be familiar with us. We've been around for over 100 years. We have morphed into other things, but basically being that volunteer center. Our mission here, as you can see, we inspire, equip, and mobilize people to provide impact to solve the most pressing challenges in our communities. I know that encompasses what I believe all nonprofits do. So really looking at community need. Vision to transform Minnesota through volunteerism. A fun fact, we wrote this years ago. We're in a new strategic plan, and we have realized with the pandemic and our ability to gather here today virtually that we are able to transform beyond Minnesota. So while we're very proud of our Minnesota roots and the community we have here, we understand that the definition of community during this pandemic has been really redefined. It's not just where our feet land. It can be, anywhere that we put our time and energy into. So what we do, this is kind of just an infographic, pretty simple on, all of the intersections that we believe our work is centered around. So for community, who's that community? Organizations, we like to believe that we are an extension of staff. We promote volunteer opportunities, provide training tools, resources to help better serve clients and fulfill missions. For volunteers, for people who want to volunteer, people who want to be involved in community, understand needs, want to learn more about what's happening around them. So for companies, we have a unique model that we empower them and their employees to serve community better. So we have key relationships with companies throughout the Twin Cities and beyond. We expertly then manage those projects that they want to be involved in. So because of those elements, we look at ourselves as connectors. So we can connect company volunteers, organizations like yourselves, and create these opportunities. And a thought leader. Both sides, I think the unique needs that both of our major stakeholders have, we're able to partner with them and really look at innovating spaces and reacting to needs and being proactive to what's happening in the landscape. Sorry, my slide button got moved. Okay, so resources. So of course, we all have websites. Here's our website. That's where you can find us. I think the unique thing about our website is that we have a volunteer database. So for organizations like yourselves, you can create volunteer opportunities there. You can create one-time need, ongoing needs, and be very specific about what you're looking for as far as parameters of time, skill set. So we see a lot of our volunteer opportunities here that roll over into pro bono. There are the transactional needs that we know nonprofits have as far as, need someone to come in and help us paint. I need someone to come in and help us organize our supplies. It can also stretch further into that pro bono mentality of, I'm looking for somebody with database expertise. I'm looking for somebody who understands project management. So those types of things we have available for nonprofits like yourself to just come here for free and add those opportunities. So that would be a key place that I would direct people at within your organization that own those checklists of finding volunteers to match your opportunities. This is definitely a place that those can be posted. We also have a membership model. So members of HandsOn Twin Cities, they are closely knit in our ecosystem. I can share, what we do on the outside of membership that's available to everyone is really a place I always encourage nonprofits to explore. So the first one is posting those volunteer opportunities in our database. The second one is attending any kind of scoping workshops or things that we offer that I'll be able to speak more to a little bit later. We have one coming up this summer. And then participate in a Connected for Change. We used to call them Impact Days, so some of you may be familiar. And this is really a day-long pro bono opportunity where we match community volunteers, most of them being corporate volunteers that we are familiar with, and then also nonprofits such as yourselves, and then working on a challenge for the day. It's a 6-hour pro bono opportunity to really dig into some of the most pressing needs that nonprofits may have. So those, like I said, all free, all things that you can do on your own without a membership. The second part of that, then there is a fee-based membership that we have. The presentation here, which I can also make sure Emily gets and can share with you. I don't want to read everything word for word, but there are a lot of other opportunities. And basically it's really being involved in our ecosystem. We at Hands-On Twin Cities, because of that volunteer database and the relationships that we've created with corporate volunteers and then also with our nonprofit sector, the access to those opportunities when they come across our desks as a member have high priority. Also, our social media channels, we partner with some great people. They're a great marketing firm here in the Twin Cities that are extremely active. And we knew that, you know, hiring somebody to do our social media externally that really had lots of reach and impact was important. And so they kind of become a secondary partner for our members. And just, again, all of the special events, things that we do, our members are who we look to and kind of bring in the fold first. Here's the pricing sheet. I will share this. So we have lots of opportunities for wherever your organizations fall. If you're interested, we believe that we really want to be able to be inclusive and make sure that people have a chance to really match their needs to what we have to offer. I'm going to take a quick sip and roll into Pro Bono 101. So Pro Bono, just the pure definition of it is donation of professional services, technology, human resources, marketing strategy, benefiting organizations working to improve society. It comes from the Latin for the public good. We know that Pro Bono really has been championed in our legal sector. That is where I think most people are familiar or hear that word and think legal services, which is great. They have to do that. That is a requirement. And so what we like to do at Hands-On Twin Cities is look at it in more of a holistic way. And it really is interchangeable with that word volunteer. You are offering, you know, skills-based services for the good of community. And so the case for Pro Bono is this intersection of that, where that suitcase lives. So we have professional interest on our right-hand side. People want to use their skill set for good. They want to feel inspired, want to gain leadership skills, knowledge, make a greater impact. And then you can look over at organizational needs. I'm sure you see yourselves in them. Limited in infrastructure, funding, and you know, capital, overcapacity and under-resourced, and need a functional expertise. So we know that those kind of two lists, when they come together, that's where Pro Bono happens, and that's where we can really activate in community and build that awareness. So volunteer interest. We know that 92% of the individuals who state that volunteering improves both broader professional skill sets and an effective way to improve leadership skills. These are numbers that we've been able to extract from reports that really tell us, how important volunteerism is, and really make a case to any of those kind of corporations that you talk to that are looking to build programs, build your mentorship programs. Employees know that their job is much more fulfilling when they have opportunities presented to them. 125%, I'm not sure how they got over, but we will go with that number. And an engaged employee is more productive and satisfied. So we know that there builds some loyalty, and there builds some, just general happiness in what they do. And then, developing friendships through volunteerism. Your programs, I think, speak to this, obviously, directly on that mentorship piece of, really building that relationship. And we know that volunteers gain so much and really value that idea. So the next piece I'm going to talk about is just our program and what we do. So we kind of start with the what of what we do. So we build customized programs for corporate volunteers. They can look long format, so anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks, we take these volunteers on a journey with organizations such as yourself. or they can look like single or multi-day meetings. So the Connected for Change Day is what I spoke about, but also we can build those for our corporate partners as well. And then we also have a latent skills. It's like a 2-hour strategy, kind of very in-depth scoping is how I usually talk about that. That is something that we also can lead. And then again, talking about those Connected for Change series that I spoke about, and we have 6 days throughout the year that nonprofits can participate in. If they fit what you are looking for and your need, we encourage nonprofits to apply to all of them. And so the who, talking about those employee volunteers, the clients, such as yourselves that are predetermined by those partnerships, is how we manage those corporate volunteer opportunities. So nonprofits, organizations just like you participate. And as I mentioned before, BIPOC-owned businesses, they're also a new client that we've seen, and our corporations are interested in kind of building that infrastructure. And then our community days, those are volunteers that are just throughout the community. So anyone can sign up for them. They don't have to be linked to any particular corporation. And so the benefits and challenges. So we know that pro bono, as with anything, is not perfect. There are always going to be things that we're looking to improve upon, we're looking to dive deeper into. And so we know that, you know, you can tap into unlimited skills and expertise. Virtual pro bono really allows for lots of flexibility, just like today, meeting over a lunch hour. That doesn't require travel, and long-term projects can be done offline. So I know that mentorship piece, you really rely on them being together and spending time and really building relationship. We do that as well in pro bono, but there is also opportunity then for building those things outside of it. Challenges, so skill areas require more time to get a productive outcome through a virtual project. So we just have to keep an eye on those scopes of work and what can really be accomplished. Technology challenges, Emily spoke to that. We all know of the dreaded Zoom, blank screen, microphones, all of those things. So just really making sure that you can troubleshoot those, and then building rapport and trust. You know, the virtual space, as we see so many conveniences with it, we understand that there are some limitations on how much trust and relationship you can build in a virtual space. So when we think about, you know, things to consider, scoping the project, as I spoke to before, video conferencing, making sure that all parties are in agreement to what they are capable of, accessing, you know, document sharing on clouds, and then making contingency plans, planning for some of those oopsies or technical difficulties that we can see. So this is just another slide showing kind of that ecosystem of where we sit and how we can connect people, the companies that we, you know, work with, then you, the beneficiary clients that we bring along, and we sit in the middle and want to make sure that that experience is valuable to all, and our clients walk away with real deliverables, real solutions for their organizations, and then that company is able to fulfill the needs of their corporate responsibility, that their employees are able to actively engage with community. Some of the corporate partners that we have, as you can see on the screen, this is not limited to, but these are companies that we've built great rapport with, and thus then be able to really tap into the pools of those volunteers, while some of them are kind of internal projects that we manage. They many times filter over into those community supported days, and then are introduced to organizations like yourself. So building that pool, building that rapport of volunteers when you are able to participate in those days really do matter. Our teams usually end up being anywhere from 3 to 6 volunteers. And then intermediary partners. I think Mentoring Minnesota is somebody that we can definitely add here, but these are also the other places that we rely heavily on, knowing the need of community and what is out there, and then kind of redistributing that and sharing the wealth, sharing all of the knowledge is what we really strive to do. So that was a lot of pro bono information. I know. And so thank you very much for listening and maybe learning a little about what we have. So I will open it up. I know we have a couple minutes left to any questions just about pro bono or hands-on Twin Cities. And as always, you can contact me. I'll be sure and share my information as well.
That's so great. Thanks, Joy. And as you said, I think maybe the most important piece to events like this, and though they're not really large, but we never know who's listening or who's watching and who's connected or who wants to be connected. And so I think that every conversation is powerful or can be. And so again, I appreciate you sharing it out, and I love your visuals. I'm a visual learner. And so I love to see all the bubbles and sort of where nonprofits and mentoring programs, where we could fit into those different ecosystems. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're always looking for nonprofits. I think Emily can attest. I just had like a 411 or 911 call to her the other day looking for nonprofits that were interested in some technology help. So I'm always looking for partners.
And technology, as I mentioned, I love and not love technology. I mean, it's great when it works, but again, it's super frustrating when it doesn't. And so I know that there's a whole community of people that are just amazing at it. And I think, most of us would always appreciate some insight, some advice, some expertise in that department on how we can do things a little bit better, change it up. For sure. I've got a couple of things I did share in the chat. As I know, some folks often, speaking of technology, we book our meetings back to back. And so people bounce in and out a little bit. But we really want to continue to provide resources and tools to folks. And in that that helps us in doing that is receiving feedback from all of you. So I popped the link for a quick survey. It's just a couple of minutes in the chat. If you're able to do that, we'd really appreciate it. I'll maybe quickly share my screen. Yeah. Can you see the any questions presentation?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm so glad I have you here, Joy,
yeah,
to be
right.
my wing person. Because again, it's hard when you're on this side. And again, working with middle schoolers, I'm used to challenges, but again, technology and presenting something on Zoom, is its own thing a little bit. But folks can definitely stay on if they have questions, or pop them in the chat or unmute yourself. And so, go ahead and just unmute. That might be easier. I was going to just add some of our contact information and let folks know about our next event that we have coming up on April 5th, and that's a press start event. So that can be for organizations that maybe don't have a mentoring program, within their organization, but are interested in doing that. They can come and learn more. And it will also be a place where we're going to walk folks through how they can receive technical assistance at no cost to their program through the National Mentoring Resource Center. But again, here's the survey. Sometimes it's just easier if you point your phone at it. Everyone usually has their phone in their pocket. So, but again, always appreciate feedback on what we've got going on.
Yeah, and I just added in the chat as well the registration we have a social media workshop coming up. So I know in organizations, social media sometimes can be a bit of a beast to manage if you don't have someone who's very dedicated. So using some great people, our partner, we're going to do just a free workshop. You can register there, and they're going to have an influencer there. So really teaching on how to make the most of the platforms that you're on, or introduce you maybe to some new platforms that you're not.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really curious about the social media. And I know even if those folks too within their, maybe sharing that out with your team, if you have a marketing and development person on your team, or even your marketing and development committees that you might have, board of directors. There's lots of different ways too that they might not be on this call, but we can continue to share out and share resources, share support, I think is really important.
For sure. I think the last thing, Emily, that I probably wasn't able to share in a very clear way, those Connected for Change days, 4 of the days really are around function. So if you're looking for functional help within marketing, strategy, technology, HR, those are functions that, really speak to where we know that organizations have gaps. And then our 2 other days are social justice and sustainability. So those days are around the equity of just evening the playing field. But you can find those at our website as well.
No, they're so great. And maybe we'll connect, and I try to do a wraparound email. I try to condense it. And so I'll just share the document that I had other resources in it, so it's not as wordy of an email. Trying to learn every day, Joy, learning every day. Trying to condense it, but I'm happy to, connect and add some of those different dates of those events so people can mark their calendar and attend that if they're able. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to stay on for a couple of minutes. Otherwise, I know if folks need to go, we're happy to give you a minute back to your day. Again, I really want to thank you, Joy Miigwech, for being here, and appreciate your willingness not only to share a little bit of your story and your expertise at HandsOn Twin Cities, but really just in your partnership and your collaborative spirit. We really appreciate that, and knowing that I think we can all, if we stay connected, we will all do better by that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I see so many overlaps of mentorship and pro bono. It's not just a transactional interaction. It's very deep and relationship building. So thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. And thanks to everyone that's been on the call. And I know I've already gotten a few messages that asked for a recording. So I appreciate you being here, and everyone for taking the time, and hopefully been able to eat their lunch a little bit while they maybe learned something new. So that's great. But yeah. So stay warm too. I think winter weather is upon us.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's see if I can stop recording.